Hello, this is Andrew Wong here, dressing as one of my favorite cosplay characters, Bruce Lee. Now, today I'm going to talk about Bruce Lee, how he died. There are so many theories out there, a lot of them far-fetched about how Bruce Lee died. Some said that because he was born premature, that his brain burst when he was 35. Other people said that because Bruce Lee was hated by the Kung Fu Society because he was teaching non-Chinese the secrets of Kung Fu, that they used the death touch on him. Some people said that in the movie, The Chinese Connection, he embarrassed and humiliated the Japanese people when he walked into the dojo and was beating them all up and killing all of their leaders, that the Japanese Yakuza poisoned them. But however, all those are completely wrong. And I'm going to tell you how Bruce Lee died. If you watch the documentary called Autopsy, it's a very, very good American TV program where they take very famous high-profile people and they actually look at the medical records when they conducted an autopsy on the dead corpse of that celebrity, and it's all explained by professional forensic science who reads the autopsy reports and explains what happens. Plus also Chuck Norris, who happened to be one of the best friends of Bruce Lee, also knew firsthand how he died, and this is what happened. Bruce Lee wanted to be the best fighter in the world. He wanted to be the best Kung Fu fighter. So 90% of his training involved building strength, speed, and endurance. He used to run and cycle for 2 hours straight. He also, in order to improve his muscle strength and size, did what a lot of professional trainers did. He lifted heavy weights and he kept pushing himself, lifting heavier, doing more reps, more repetitions, more sets, so as to make his muscles bigger and stronger. But then what happened was, during one of his training sessions, he lifted a weight that was way, way too heavy for him. And what happened was, in his lower back, he actually crushed some of his vertebrae and discs. That was really, really major painful. And when he went to see a doctor, the doctor, of course, did the CAT scans and the x-rays and said, look, you've crushed some of the vertebrae in your lower back, and that's why you're in so much pain you can barely move. I'm afraid you will have to give up your Kung Fu training. In fact, there's a good chance perhaps you may not walk again. Now Bruce Lee, of course, being Bruce Lee, refused to give up. And through rehabilitation and focusing on exercises to build up the muscles in his lower back, he defied the odds and was able to walk, and he was able to train and go back to his former days of practicing Kung Fu. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that Bruce Lee crushed and damaged his lower back, and there were certain exercises that he couldn't do, like squats and lunges, and so therefore, Bruce Lee, when you look at him, he wasn't an Arnold Schwarzenegger or professional bodybuilder, because like I said, he had crushed vertebrae in his lower back, and so he couldn't do a lot of the high compound exercises that bodybuilders could. Imagine if Bruce Lee had not hurt himself so badly, he'd be alive today, and he could pretty much be a really big muscly dude. But you see him in his movies, he has a high muscle tone, but not hugely bulked up, and he has a very, very low body fat percentage because of the exercises he did. Now, the thing was, because of those damaged vertebrae in his lower back, for the rest of his life, Bruce Lee had to take painkillers, he had to take anti-inflammatories, he had to take muscle relaxants that focused on his lower back so that he wouldn't be in pain. He even took steroids at one stage. And what happened was, because he was always pushing himself, all the movies that he's made, such as Enter the Dragon, Way of the Dragon, he was slightly recovering from his previous injuries. He was taking also drugs to stay awake. And that's what a lot of Hollywood actors used to do. They took drugs to stay awake, to give them an energy boost. And anyhow, eventually what happened was all those drugs and pushing himself with training and meeting movie schedules and stress caught up with him. In the documentary Autopsy, they did find traces of arsenic and lead. So there were cases whereby probably some people were trying to poison him, but that's not what killed him. Also, the thing was, during the autopsy, they found out that over a period of time, because Bruce Lee was getting into fights in order to prove his kung fu skill, he did suffer a bit of a concussion, which caused a little bit of brain damage. But in the end, the thing that killed him was this: all those cocktail of drugs he was taking. And then, just before he was making the movie Game of Death, he was having an affair with a Hong Kong actress. And what happened was, he had this really bad migraine. In fact, throughout most of his life, he had migraines because of all the drugs he was taking, the stress he was under, and the fact that he was pushing himself. And in a hotel room, she gave him one of her doctor-prescribed medications for headaches. She actually gave it to Bruce Lee. It was prescribed for her, but not for Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee took the painkiller medication, and what it did was it caused his brain to swell inside his skull. So imagine that's your skull, this is your brain. After he took that drug which a Hong Kong actress gave to him because they were having an affair, the brain just swelled up inside the skull and it couldn't go anywhere, and he suffered a major hemorrhage. And what happened was, when Bruce Lee was lying down to overcome the headache, he stopped breathing, he wouldn't wake up. The actress, trying to wake up Bruce Lee, he wouldn't wake up. At that point, she should have called a doctor. She should have called an ambulance. They could have rushed Bruce Lee to a hospital. Perhaps it could have saved his life, but no. She was so concerned about her image and the fact that, if people find out that me and Bruce Lee are having this affair, I'm going to be in all sorts of tabloids and all sorts of trouble. So what she did was, to virtually save her own ass, she called Bruce Lee's manager. The manager came over. She thought to herself, if the manager's there, he can call the ambulance, I'll have an alibi. He called the ambulance, but by the time they got him to the hospital, it was too late. And that's practically how one of the greatest kung fu fighters, the greatest kung fu movie stars in the world, Bruce Lee, died. It was very tragic. So the thing is, when it comes to training, you got to push yourself, because that's how you build muscle and decrease your body fat percentage, but be sensible. Don't push yourself to the extent that you permanently injure yourself. It's not worth it. Me, I never ever go past that point whereby I'm in so much pain and feel like, no, I've got to keep going because you'll get benefits. No. I listen to my body, and that's the thing is, listen to your body. If you get injured, or if there's a certain weight that you can't lift, stop right there, take a step back, have a rest. The body needs time to heal, and muscles grow when it's at rest. So that's the thing about training. You need a balance between intensive exercises and a rest period so your muscles and your body can recover. That's me from Andrew Wong.